Assalamu alaikum. 10 years ago, I received an offer from Emirates Aluminium, which is located in the outskirts of Abu Dhabi. I'm from Sharjah, and I never thought that I would go that far for a position or for work, for a job. But given I've seen what they've offered me and the team that I was going to work with, and that was something that I was interested in. I've worked with a team that's multicultural, so the team consisted of Spanish, French, Ukrainian, Italian, Indian, Pakistanis, Emiratis, and what we did there was operational excellence, and specifically speaking, we had to implement lean management in Emirates Aluminium. Of course, it's called today EGA, Emirates Global Aluminium, after the merge with Dubai. And when I worked there, started there, I was very fascinated with lean management and waste identification and elimination and all that. I would like to thank and be grateful to my, as the Japanese say, my sensei. And he was my manager at Emirates Aluminium. He taught me all these things. He was my mentor, and he was a great teacher. What I worked on, it was suggestion schemes, building suggestion schemes, innovation systems, Kaizen workshops, strategic A3 planning, lean management training. I think we've covered everybody in Emirates Aluminium, talking to them about lean management and all that. And of course, I'll get into that when we start the session in more details. Now, what my session is about is something that is information, and if you don't really dig deeper yourself and read and explore yourself, it is just good to know information. You know, it's just like information you're gonna hear about today and say, oh, okay, cool. But really, it's really the tip of the iceberg. 1 hour session will not give you everything you need to know about the subject of waste identification and waste elimination. Usually I give this workshop minimal, being very, very brief in a full day session. So from 8 to 3. And if I'm being comfortable with it, probably 2-day workshop. So yeah. Like I said, I'm going to give you the tip of the iceberg. It's information that you need to look up, you need to read about. It's very detailed. It has a lot of things that you need to know about and understand in order to apply at your workplace and wherever you're working. I'm sure many of you guys are Muda. Yes. You will tell us about Muda. Yes, Muda specific. Yes, exactly. I guess she's an expert here. Sorry, I'm randomly reading comments, so I'm sorry if I miss out some comments. As you know, it's 1 hour, 30 minutes to 1 hour, and I want you guys to be engaged and you benefit from it. Of course, the platform, social media, is the span of attention is very short, so I have to be very precise and to the point and not get you bored. I hope I can do that. Okay, so yes. Now, let's begin. Okay. طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين. Of course, this is going to be in English. That's what they've requested, and I agree with that. So let me tell you a little bit, a little history about lean management and waste identification. When we talk about lean management, when we talk about management itself, the father of scientific management, you have to understand this and you have to know this because you can read up on it, is Frederick Taylor. Frederick Taylor was the founder of scientific management. So whatever we know today and apply in our government, in our workplace, really comes from this man. Okay, so he is the one who introduced processes, policies, all these things, everything that we know about management. He was the founder of it, and he kind of kickstarted everything from there. Another thing is Henry Ford, of course, the founder of Ford Motors, is one of the founders of lean management, and he is the guy who created conveyor belts. So the processes of conveyor belts, where you see how every employee focuses on one specific work or job, and then passes it to the other person, and then he does his own because he wanted to maximize production. And this came from Henry Ford. And another thing is Toyota is actually Toyota is actually also one of the key adopters of lean management. Now, someone might say, what is lean management? What are you talking about? Okay, so lean management is a philosophy, and we could relate it a little bit to Henry Ford, and we could relate it to the people or the guys at Toyota. So it's half here, and it basically means that you create value by eliminating waste. You create value by eliminating waste. This is, in brief, in short, what lean management means. And of course, we're going to dig into what do we mean by waste. And I don't mean waste as in the waste that comes out, the green gooey stuff that comes out of factories. No, it's the waste that we are suffering from, and maybe we don't know. Okay. Industrial engineering, yes, of course. So I wanted first to tell you something, and we want to connect the dots. Our government years ago, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, and the government in general, they have announced specific things and very important announcements to us, to the government entities, to all the corporates and organizations. Do you remember when Sheikh Mohammed said about the paperless government? And then he said, we want a smart government. And then he said there is an innovation week and innovation month. And all these things that we hear about from our government is basically what we're trying to do is we want to eliminate waste, and we want to create value. What Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid is saying, and we can translate it into what we're about to talk about today, is eliminating waste, identifying waste, unnecessary things that we're doing, and eliminating them. This is exactly what we should be worrying about. Now, why eliminating waste is something important, especially now, today, in the current situation. As you all know, we are suffering from a pandemic. On 11th of March 2020, the World Health Organization has declared that the COVID-19 is a pandemic, and it has affected the whole world. You know how many, as of yesterday, I've checked the numbers yesterday, and it was 1.7 million cases so far. 1.7 million cases so far. More than 100,000 deaths, and only 400,000 recovered. 400,000 plus recovered. Until now, there's no medicine has been confirmed. Now, the COVID-19, of course, is a virus. But is it only restricted on the health industry? Of course not. It has affected our lives. It has affected everything that we think about. So there was a sharp drop in traffic. Let's just put out how it has affected us. There was a sharp drop in traffic, and I don't mean just road traffic. There was a sharp drop in traffic, in road traffic, in public places, in work, in education, in travel. Everything was dropped. There are no people out there anymore. Everybody's sitting at home because of the quarantine, because of the يسمونه الحجر الصحي أو المنزلي. Buying power has dropped. There's a lot of companies and organizations that are offering services and products that rely on us traveling to them and buying goods from them, or maybe a service. Now, increase in turnover due to lower sales. A lot of companies, a lot of organizations has dropped with their sales and profits. What do? One of the main assets and main costs that organizations have are employees, are salaries. So they've started thinking about and considering cutting employee salaries, letting employees go, all these things just in order to survive because of this virus, this pandemic. Cut downs on salaries and benefits, like I mentioned. Other organizations have, of course, benefited from this. which is telecommunication, internet services, applications, anything digital really has really benefited from this, in a way. I know it's a crisis, but even in crisis, sometimes people benefit from these things. Not in bad intentions, of course. Entertainment services, a lot of people are sitting at home, doing nothing. So entertainment services are really being very active now. Digital banking, of course, yes. Now, as I said, there are quarantines, there are curfews, lockdowns that are happening in the society, in the community. And this has affected us. This has affected our work. This has affected our lives. This has affected everything. Many services has dropped or dropped down. This is the situation today. So, now, before the COVID-19, let's think about this. What about our organizations and the way we worked? The way we worked. What do you think about the way we work? Do you think that how we did things before the virus, was it optimal? Was it perfect? Was there was no room for improvement? I guess not. Do you know that there was a study, general study made in organizations, and they have concluded that 60% of processes, of services, of anything an organization is doing, on average, 60% is waste. What do I mean by waste? What I mean by waste is if you remove that 60% of whatever processes that this organization is doing, they will operate 100% exactly the same, nothing affected. And this is something scary. That means you're wasting resources, you're using resources unnecessarily. Now, the crisis is a hard way. It's really a wake-up call for us to really think about these things, because we are forced to minimize everything. Because if you don't survive. And I'm not just talking about small businesses and medium businesses. We're talking about countries and governments. I mean, we know that some governments today they were very effective because they were highly affected because of the pandemic. Why? Because they didn't really foresee and plan or have a countermeasure to this crisis, to this pandemic. They really kind of ignored what happened, and this really affected them. So it is very, very important today, and this is why I've decided to talk to you about waste and identifying waste. In this time of crisis, you need to do that in order to survive. And I go back to the governments and organizations, and I also go back to you as an individual, as an employee, as a member of society. On many levels, you need to think about waste. You need to identify waste and eliminate it. I'm just checking the time so I don't really go over time. Okay, so, and somebody mentioned this before, Muda. So, like I said, there was an identification of waste. 60% of processes in organizations are actually waste. Now, there is another shred of these processes that are called essential, which are, sorry, I'm just gonna refer to my notes. So there's value added processes, which is of course value added activities. These you need to preserve, and you need to guarantee that these are operatable, and you are doing these things because they are the core. These are value added activities, which means that if you don't do these things, your product will not go through. You will not see the end result of the product. This you can't touch, but you optimize. You optimize only. Then there is non-value added activities, which are there, but they're not necessary. That means you can work around them. You can have improvements where you can minimize them, or you can even remove them. These are non-value added. Now let's talk about, generally speaking, if you're in a plant, a factory. So the factory, the core business where you're producing, I'm talking about Emirates Aluminium, producing aluminium, that's the core. That's value added because it serves the end product. This is value added. Now, if we talk about HR, finance, procurement, IT, all these are non-value added activities, but they're there and we need them, but we optimize them more and we try to minimize it as much as we can, because it of course it wastes resources. And then there is the red part, which is the 60% of it, which is the non-value added. This is all around what we need to really remove, not even optimize, but remove from our organization. I hope this is clear. And this is what they call in Japanese muda. Muda is waste. All right. So we're all clear on what is waste. Waste is anything unnecessary that you do, and if you remove, you will reach the end product or the target of your product or service. So whatever you're offering to the customer. And by the way, anything in the world has a customer and has a process. Everything in the world has a process. You can't do anything without a process. Even if you don't note it down, there is a process to everything in life. And of course, there is a customer. A customer where is somebody who receives your service or product, whether it's inside your organization, whether it's outside your organization, whatever it is. There's a customer, there's a process. You have to understand these things and you have to comprehend this. All right, so in lean management, there are the core, one of the core principles of lean management is waste identification. And there are 8 deadly wastes. You can Google it and get more information about it after the session, inshallah, if you're interested. So the 8 wastes. By the way, when I read your comments, ذهني شوي يتشتت، فأنا بركز شوي على اللي أبغى أقوله. الله المستعان. I'm not very good at multitasking when I'm talking. All right, so the 8 types of waste, and this is the foundation of lean management, which you can, it's an acronym, you can learn it, which is Tim Woods, the name Tim Woods, and it's an acronym for the 8 wastes. T for transportation, which is the waste of transportation. What do we mean by that? So the waste of transportation, which means any wasted time, resources, or cost when unnecessarily moving products or material. So whatever you're moving from one place to another that can be removed is a waste, or it's unnecessary. Anything. So I'll give you an example. If we're talking about hospitals, moving patients from department to department, and this is something that we always see, and the hospitals, usually they're huge, and you have to walk like a kilometer to go get an x-ray and then come back to your doctor, and then this is transportation. You are a product. If you're a patient, then you're a product. And moving a product or a material from one place to another unnecessarily, then that is considered waste. Now you have to think about whether you need these transportations or not. Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. So you have to think about these things. Sending overstock inventory back to a warehouse or an outlet for store location. Transportation of products from one functional area to another. That's also waste. Of nurse time, yes, exactly. In software, even in digital, in IT, if in software it may mean moving codes from one server to another, that's also waste. And I'll give you a real example, a very big example of waste of transportation. In Emirates Aluminium, we needed to transport raw materials from the docks to the factory. Okay, so to create the aluminium, and these materials were huge. We get them in tons, and we needed trucks and lorries to transport them, and that cost a lot of money. We needed fleet management, we needed trolleys, we needed drivers, we needed maintenance, we needed place to park the trolleys or the trucks, and all this is cost. It's resources. So what the management thought is, how can we eliminate this transportation process? And what they thought about was something very, very nice and sophisticated. They said, why don't we build the plant next to the docks, next to the Mina? And it's actually in KZAD, which is a Khalifa port. Yeah. So what happened is the plant, the factory, is next to the port. And what they did is they've created a channel that sucks all the material from the ships. It sucks all the material from the ship and transports it to the factory, where they start cooking up all the material so it becomes aluminium. So they have eliminated the waste of transportation. They don't need any trucks, they don't need any fleet, they don't need any petrol, they don't need any management or drivers or any of these things. Okay, so this is just an example of waste, the transportation waste. Next, we have the I, which is inventory. An inventory means storing products or materials that are not needed at this time. Although it is a significant concern in manufacturing, a lot of inventory. When we talk about inventory, we think factories and stores and things like that. But it also means our office jobs, our day-to-day job. It has a lot of inventory, and we need to think about that. So, for example, excess production of promotional materials. You have promotional materials or printed forms that are just piled up in your store or in your desk or in your cupboard that you don't need. And this is waste. This is all waste. For example, cabinets full of office supplies. This is also waste. And today, because of the COVID-19, there's a lot of people who are not working. They've just abandoned their offices. All this is probably just waste. It's just sitting there. Papers and supplies and all these things are unused. So we need to think about these things. Another thing is produce or products and foods that goes to waste inside our kitchen. And this is something we really, really need to think about because of the COVID-19 and the curfew. Some people, and this is I've seen on a personal level. I go shopping in the supermarket, and I see people just piling up things because of the curfew. It's like they're not gonna get out of the house for a whole month, and this creates a lot of waste because you know very well that a lot of these things that you buy, it might go to waste because it expires. You buy milk, you buy bread, you buy all these necessities, and then you eat a little bit of it, and then time expires, and then it goes to waste. And this also we see in Ramadan. Inshallah, Ramadan comes to us, and we solve this crisis and we get over it. In Ramadan, there's a lot of people who are like that because they go, they're hungry and they want food, and they're thinking about their, the meal, the al-futur, and they buy a lot of things. They exaggerate on buying a lot of things. Anyways, so this is the inventory waste. You need to think about anything that you don't need to store, that you remove. And this is something very important because it actually is wasting resources. Another thing is the waste of motion, which is the M. The waste of motion, involves unnecessary movement of people or items within a work center. So I'll give you an example. People searching for materials, tools, or equipment. This is waste of motion because you're moving around searching for things and you can't find them. Another thing is handoffs on software development. So the software development where you start moving around to get these codes and talking to this person or going to the other department to retrieve any codes for the software is actually waste of motion. Poorly structured and disorganized waste workspaces, having to make too many clicks on a website or a program or a system, just moving around in any kind of way that is unnecessary is actually the waste of motion. And something that we are all living and experiencing today is the going to work. That is now today we realize that a lot of jobs, it doesn't need you to go to work. You don't need to go to an actual office to get your job done. So we have eliminated, whether we like it or not, because of the COVID-19, we have eliminated the waste of motion, which is moving employees from home to a workplace. You started thinking, lean manufacturing. Yes, brother. Well, part of it, the principle of waste identification. Now, we realize that a lot of jobs, you don't need to be in an office. You can just do it perfectly well at home. As a matter of fact, it will actually save us a lot of cost because employees going to work, you will utilize electricity, any other resources, office supplies, etc. All these things. As a matter of fact, even on a personal level, you don't need to get dressed to go to work anymore. You just wake up, go to the living room, have your coffee, open up your laptop, and then just start working. So this is what we've eliminated. Well, the COVID-19 helped us to eliminate the waste of motion. All right, so moving forward. How much time do I have? Okay, we have a lot of time. So then there is the waste of waiting, which is sitting idle. Waiting involves customers, patients, or parts sitting idle. That means nobody's using them, they're just sitting there waiting for something to happen. Waiting happens when the person or item is ready for the next step, but the process is not ready to accommodate them. So I'll give you an example. Patients waiting in waiting rooms. This is we've all suffered. You know, you book an appointment with in the hospital, and they say your appointment is at 8:30, and you reach there at 8:30. You probably wait there for like an hour or 30 minutes just to go there. That 30 minutes of you waiting, the hospital should consider it as waste. You got a lot of traffic, people are just piling up in your waiting room, sitting because there was poor planning, because other customers or other patients came in emergencies. So you need to eliminate this waiting time in hospitals. Another example is software applications that are sitting in the quality assurance step, just being checked for quality, and you're just waiting there. So the product is ready, but it hasn't been launched because of quality assurance. Of course, I don't minimize or underestimate quality assurance. It's very important, but sitting there for longer than it should, that's waste. Another thing is system down. This is what a lot of people today is suffering, and this is something very, very important. When we have today, because of the COVID-19, we are relying on digital services. We are relying on the computers, on the applications, on the software. And if there is downtime or maintenance time, or the system is malfunctioning, then your service will stop. You will stop from providing any services to your clients or to your customers or to your colleagues. So this idle time is waste. And we see that a lot sometimes when we go to get a service. I don't know why. Maybe it's coincidence. I mean, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but when you want to go and close your account in a bank, and every time you want to close your account or remove a service from the bank, they say system atlan. The system is not working now. But when you want a service and it means it has money, then the system is working suddenly. Magic. I'm just kidding. But these things do happen, and it is waste. Okay, so manufacturing process is waiting for component deliveries. A lot of times also because of waiting. So even like in your car, your car needs a spare part. Where is that spare part? Oh, we need to order it from outside, and you need to wait. Oh, that waiting time is waste. Okay, we don't want to call any companies, yeah? We don't want to get legal in this session. Anyways, okay. So waiting for a flight also. Waiting for a flight and it gets delayed, and then maybe it gets cancelled. So that's waiting time. And we are suffering from this because of the COVID-19. A lot of people have cancelled their flights, and they're just waiting for a flight to start or to be open so they can go back to their country or they can finish their jobs or whatever. All this waiting time is waste. So that's the W. And now we come to the mother of all waste, which is overproduction. And I want to remind you of the acronym Tim Woods. So we talked about T and I and M and the W because it's waiting. And now the O. The first O is overproduction. Overproduction, they call it the mother of all waste. The mother of all waste. And what it means is producing more of a product that can be consumed at the time this creates waste of overproduction. Making too much of something, or making it even too early, something that you don't need it now and you're making it, and that's overproduction. Anything you create that nobody's making use of is overproduction. And this really translates, why is it the mother of all waste? Because it translates to all the other wastes. Because your inventory gets piled up, you use your transportation, you use all your resources to produce something that nobody wants. And this is something very dangerous. And it doesn't mean only a product. It means even a policy, a service, an application, any kind of thing that you waste your time and resources doing and completing and nobody uses is waste, and it is overproduction. So you need to think about how or what you produce, especially in this time when the resources are scarce. What do you need to produce to run your services better and to optimize your resources, not waste any resources? Now, for example, we production of components before the next stage of the process, which of course piles up in your inventory. printing and filing unnecessary documents. This is also waste. This is all waste. Creation of meals that are not eaten or partially eaten, and maybe because of the COVID-19, a lot of restaurants that do not deliver has gone to waste. Somebody says extra meals in wedding. Oh my God, wedding. Wedding. I think 60%, more than 60% of weddings are waste. The kosher and the food and the place, a lot of things. Okay, let's not get started because we don't want to offend anyone. But yes, all these things are waste. Even Hollywood movies, making a movie which is, it goes to waste. Nobody's watching it, and the ratings is down, and it goes to failure. You've wasted all this money, you've paid everybody, and you've made this movie, and it's just waste. All right, so moving on. We've understood the mother of all waste. Don't produce something that you don't need or you can't make use of. Need before want. Exactly. Okay, so the other O is the overprocessing. Overprocessing is something that is we all suffer from, especially in some sectors and entities that provide services. What overprocessing means is that overprocessing simply means doing the work that does not add value to the customer. Overprocessing is resolved with simplification, and I always say this to employees and people who are handling processes. Ya habibi, ya akhi al-kareem, ya ukhti al-kareema. Processes are made to help you. The process serve you. You don't serve the process. You are the authority of the process. You don't let the process control you. Bureaucracy, this is something that's a killer, and this is a true story. One time I was working on a circular ta'meem, and the circular had a lot of clauses before, بناء على قرار مجلس الهذا وبناء على ما ادري شو بناء على. It's like half the page is just previous circulars and previous like announcements and decisions, and then بناء على كل هذا we have decided that we're gonna do this service for you. And I had to, every time I had to do a circular, I had to pick each and every one of these other قرارات بناء على قرار كذا في سنة 1990 وبناء على قرار مجلس الإدارة إلى آخره. كل هذا I had to retrieve it from our archive, and it took me, I swear, it took me maybe 5 days, just to get everything together, just to say one little thing to the employees that I wanted to send and tell them. And I told the person who was handling this, I said, أختي يعني أنا ما يحتاج هذا كله أصلا، ما حد بيقراه يعني. Who cares about all this? I just wanted to. قالت لا، هذا البروسيس. This what kills us. هذا البروسيس. هذا هو الإجراء. أنا ما بغيره. كيف ما بتغيره؟ يعني عفوا، هذا مو قرآن منزل. We have to challenge the processes that we have. Some processes simply do not need optimization. It just needs you to remove these steps. Remove them. If you don't need them, remove them. And always ask yourself when it comes to processes. Always ask yourself, if I remove step 1 and step 2, will I be able to produce the same product and the same service? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, remove it. Remove it. Don't let any of these steps in the processes slow you down. Okay, so these processes you have to really reconsider. Like I said, these steps you need to eliminate if you can. Okay, moving on. Defects. This is something big. Doing something of poor quality and later fixing it or scrapping it. Lean practitioners also count the cost of inspection as part of the waste. So, for example, and this is something that really happened, and defects and bad quality can cost the company its life. You can go bankrupt if you have bad quality things. Remember when Toyota had defects in their airbags? I think one of their and it's something ironic because Toyota really embraces and adopts lean management, but nobody's perfect, right? So one of these cars, these models, had a defect in their airbags. Imagine a defect in your airbag. If you have an accident, your airbag will not activate. That caused a lot of harm. Because of defect, because of bad quality. Of course, Toyota was brave enough and smart enough that they retrieved all their cars back and fixed the problem to maintain, of course, their reputation in quality. It's in 2019 exactly. So these defects can really harm us. Today in the COVID-19 crisis, we have seen one defect that can be deadly, which is of course the face masks. We've heard in the news that some people are selling bad quality face masks, and they're falling off, or they're not doing the job. They're not really giving you the job that you're expected, and this is a problem. And I want to also shed some light on quality. When we talk about quality, we think about customer satisfaction, and customer satisfaction basically means customer expectation. The word perfect, when we talk about perfect, it means you're doing what's expected what you're expected to do. So sometimes quality can go overboard, and that also creates waste, and sometimes quality of course goes under what's expected, and that's also waste. So you have to think about these things. Don't go overboard with your quality, because you're going to waste time and resources on something that nobody or your customer doesn't care about. And I'll give you an example. And this is something funny that I see. When you go to service centers and you see all these crazy big couches, and حاطين لك الفوالة والقهوة والتمر والأمور هذه كلها. And when I go to service centers anywhere, I don't care about your coffee. I don't care about your big sofas. I don't care about anything. I care about one thing and one thing only: speed and quality. I want to go there, I want to finish my service, I want to get my service, and I want to get out. I don't want to sit in I don't want to drink your coffee, I don't want to sit in your cushion. So all these things, and this is just an example of course, all these things, I think it's excessive quality for the customer expectation. The customer, once you expects you to just finish his service as soon as possible, and then he just leaves. And this is what we need to think about. So quality is something very, very important. Now, last but not least, it's the waste of staff. So we talked about Tim Woods, TIMWOODS. Of course, the quality of service, that's also very, very important. And now the waste of staff is something that is very, very essential and very, very delicate. And when I talk about the waste of staff, what I mean is the discussion centered around only the prior 7 wastes. Lean before lean was only 7 wastes, and now it became 8 wastes, which is staff is one of them. And when you have staff that are underutilized or overutilized, this is considered waste. And it is probably the most common and the most damaging type of waste. And I want to also talk to you, and I want to remind you that even in our government today, why are they very keen on having such employee satisfaction and employee happiness? Today we know that there are chief happiness officers in organizations, and we have built committees of happiness, and we have a minister of happiness, and we're very, very we have considered employee happiness very important because of this waste. Because of this waste, the government has identified that the true asset of an organization is not the process. The true asset, or the core asset of the organization, is the employee. If you don't have employees, nothing's going to work. All these machines, all these policies, all these processes, nothing will work. You need to have employees. And when I say employees, you need to have engaged employees. Because if you have employees that are negative and toxic, they're going to bring your company down. You're going to bring your organization down. They're going to create a lot of defects. They're going to create a lot of waste. They're going to create a lot of overproduction. Everything will be in waste. And so you have to understand that employees need to really be served in a way. And today we see that it's not like before. Back then, decades ago, the employee, it was the industrial kind of concept of employees. What I mean is you go to work, and the only thing that satisfies you is your salary. There's nothing else. It's your salary. انت عندك راتبك، اشتغل، حصل راتبك، انتهى الموضوع. بس ما في شيء ثاني. ليش؟ Because there are no options. You had one job, you do it for 20-25 years, and that's it. Today the marketplace is different. Today there's competition, there's career, there is targets, there is causes. People are not just thinking about salaries anymore. There's a different kind of goal for employees. Today the employee says, yeah, fine, you give me a salary, any other company is going to give me a salary. What else can you give me? What else can you provide me? Can you provide me a career? Can you provide me development? Can you provide me self-fulfillment? Can you provide me all these things? I want to be engaged. I want to be a partner with you in this government, in this organization. That's when you get employees that are happy, that are engaged, that are with you and loyal, and really you don't waste this talent that you have. And also on top of that, إجماع الواسطة. Wasta, when you have somebody مبكفؤ, somebody who is not fit for the job, and you put him in that job, what happens? You create a lot of waste, because he's not going to get the job done. He's going to make bad decisions. He's going to create a lot of waste. Rewarding them is one of these things. Rewarding them, of course, intangible things and intangible things. You have to create purpose for these employees. You have to put the right employees in the right position. And I've seen this, and it really hurts me. A lot of these employees in our in private or public sectors, we see a lot of talents that are being wasted. Why? يعني, for example, one guy, مثلا, he has a degree in something, or he is good, he's an expert in something, but he is in another department, got nothing to do with what he knows and what he can provide and offer the organization. And this is something that is sad. Like, for example, there are some people or some staff employees, they work, for example, in a call center, which is a routine job. You answer calls and that's it. That same employee might have a degree in training or teaching or coaching or any of these kind of talents or skills that you can use. And these things really are going to waste. You have to identify these things and you have to utilize them. If you don't do that, you're gonna create a lot of waste. Now, these are the 8 wastes that lean management has taught us and is telling us. And what other important time we need to understand these wastes? You, as I'm sure many of you are government employees, some of you have businesses, some of you are decision makers. Whatever you are, you have to apply these 8 waste identifications, because if you don't, and especially now, if you don't, we are limited with our resources. We have to reconsider everything, and also think about after the COVID-19. طبعا COVID-19, this crisis, inshallah, it will stop. But what's going to happen afterwards? Now we are living almost, I think, a month, more than a month now. We are living in a way that we're starting to adapt on many things. And one of the main things that I really enjoy now is these virtual meetings. I don't need to be somewhere to have a meeting with 5, 10, 20 people. I can just do it on my phone or on my laptop, and we can get the job done. We can decide, we can discuss, we can agree, we can do whatever we want. Passing information in meetings has become so easy because of the COVID-19. And why is it now? Because we're forced to do that now, and now we're being adapted to it. Now, تأقلمنا مع الوضع. فالحين, after that, after the COVID-19, what's going to happen? Are you and me going to go back to the same old us with the same old waste and doing the same old things? Or are we going to adapt and pick whatever habits, good habits that we have picked from this crisis, and really pass it on from today? And you, as a decision maker, you have to be, we should not blame HR. Please don't blame HR. I'm from HR. Anyways, and any decision maker has to be brave sometimes. You have to be brave to take these decisions. Some of these jobs, you don't need them to come to the office. You're wasting a lot of resources. Some of these jobs, you have to be more flexible with them, with the employees, with the processes, all these things. We are getting the jobs done with the minimal resources that we have. And this is something that we need to really study and look into. Now, like I said, all this information is nice to know, but if we don't do anything about it, really, it's just information. It's just like a WhatsApp message that you have heard and then you forget about. So we really need to consider and think about every single person. Whatever I've said today, every single person needs to just to translate everything. Translate what I've said into their job. What do I have in my job, in my process, that has transportation, that has me moving around as motion, that has inventory, whether it's paper, whether it's files, whether it's products, any kind of inventory that I have that I can eliminate and I still get the job done, and my life is not affected, my job is not affected, anything is not affected. You have to think about these things. Anything that you're producing today, you can minimize and optimize. You have to do. So this is basically what the 8 wastes are, and how important it is today in the crisis, and how important it is to take it forward even after the crisis. This is what I've got. Sorry, okay, so we have a bit of time. Maybe we can share some ideas, maybe you can share some thoughts on what I've said today, and what was explained about waste identification and elimination. Oh, absolutely, yeah. Work from home. There are some questions. Let me check if there are some questions. Okay, alhamdulillah, there are no questions. Working from home is something today we are noticing that it's successful. يا جماعة, حتى education today. Education is the process, the concept of education is so old. We need to think about these things with the with today's life, how everything has been, the era of information and digitalization and virtual world. You need to reconsider how we're teaching our kids. Our kids' brains are not the same anymore. The way we think is not the same anymore. All these things is making us people that are different. 20 years ago, we were different people. We're completely different humans. And when I say completely different humans, we need to reconsider how we get things done, whether it's education, whether it's work, whether any of these things. Like, for example, we all know the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a pyramid of needs that says the number one thing about employees and how to satisfy them is the shelter, the food, the money that comes, and then comes the safety, the job safety, and then it comes the self-fulfillment, and then actualization, and all these things. This is so old. Today employees don't think about these things. Today employees think about 3 things, and 3 things only. They think about the 3 C's, which is career, a cause, and the community, which is the environment in the workplace. If they have these 3, they are satisfied. If they don't, then it's different. So all these things, we need to really revolutionize how we're working. How are we working? We have to be brave enough to make decisions. And by the way, in lean management, or the agile organizations, you have to make mistakes. Wallah, you have to make. If you don't make mistakes, you're not going to learn. You're not going to develop. Don't think that going on a successful journey to excellence or to development and all that, you cannot make mistakes. You have to make a lot of mistakes. And making mistakes is not easy. It's not easy on yourself, in nafsik, and it's not easy sometimes on resources and cost. But you have to invest in these things. You have to do it. If you want to develop, you have to try. You have to be brave enough to try and test and make mistakes, and then reconsider. But make smart mistakes. Don't just say ضربة عمي. You just do things, then you're just making mistakes, 1,000 mistakes. No, you have to plan things well, and if you make a mistake, that's acceptable. And if you don't, alhamdulillah. That's very important. And please share with me some of these thoughts so we can talk a little bit more, if you guys are still willing to listen, inshallah. Beginning of the virtual education was difficult, but now everyone will get used to it. Okay. Yes, I agree with you. I do think that the 3 C's, which is career, community, and cause. Career, community, and cause. Career, everybody needs a career. I want to know where I stand today, in 1 year, in 5 years. I want to know where I am in this organization. This is something important for the employee. And a cause, you need to make your employee as a partner with you. You need to get him to know, be transparent when you make decisions, what the company is going through, all these things. You have to have these things. You have to give him a cause. Why is he working here? This is very important. And of course, the community. Community, which means the environment, who's around you, his manager, his colleagues, how he is with everybody. If you have these 3 C's in an organization, the employee is going to be satisfied. He's going to be happy. Of course, but you need to make programs, everything that considers these 3 C's. Career, cause, and community. Yes. What else can we talk about? I hope this subject is clear on a general level. Yes, connected to the why. Exactly. You have to ask yourself why. Oh, the old mentality, bureaucracy. now like the advanced developed organizations, what do they do؟ طبعا احنا طبعا كلنا نعرف هذا الشيء. The organizational structure, the hierarchy, the organizational الهيكل التنظيمي لأي مؤسسة كيف تكون؟ vertical، صح؟ CEO، vice، secretary، مكتب، بعدين أقسام أو قطاعات، بعدين إدارات، بعدين أقسام، بعدين وحدات، بعدين شجرة كبيرة وطويلة. This is all fat. This all ترهلات في الهيكل صارت. You don't need all these things. What you need today is agile organizational structures, something that we call flat organizational structures. What does that mean? It means كلكم سيدة واحد. We're all in the same level. We're all in the same level. But how do we differ from this and that? Is we have this level or this kind of department or team is handling A project, and this is handling B project, and this is handling A, B, C project. So depending on your experience and your expertise and your team, you handle a certain amount of projects. بس ما حد فوق حد. في واحد فوق أخذ قرار أو مجلس وبعدين تحت كلهم flat. Everybody's flat and everybody's doing their job. You know, project kind of based kind of hierarchy and organizational structure. This is more or much more efficient than having a vertical organizational structure. This is bureaucracy. This creates a lot of processes. Everything is slow in a vertical organization. If you're vertical, هذا ياخذ قرار من هذا وهذا ياخذ موافقة من هذا وهذا يرفض وهذا يتضارب مع هذا وهذا تستوي مشاكل. تستوي everything gets jumbled up and everything gets political in صح التعبير. And this is what happens. And I love even in the workspace, some organization, and I have to mention these guys, I love their workspace. هيئة الإحصاء الاتحادية التنافسية والإحصاء، اسمهم وايد طويل سامحوني، لكن they're located in Dubai in Festival City. You guys, you have to go and see their workplace. Subhanallah, it's beautiful. It's an open workplace. It's very, very attractive. It's very nicely decorated. It's something يعني سبحان الله. أنا دخلت يوم زرتهم هذاك اليوم أنا والتيم، صدق شيء يفتح النفس. Eliminating a lot of yes. شو ما في مكتب مدير ومكتب مدري شو وأماكن مسكرة. لا أبدا. كل حد مفتوح وكل المكان كله مفتوح والمكاتب كلها مجابلة بعض. It's a big just خلية نحل. تعرفون it's really nice. والله هذا شيء يعني أنا استغربت منه. شفت مكتب شيء صغير حلو شيء يعني it's really nicely designed and decorated. شفته شيء على الكوريدور، باب مفتوح عند الممر. قلت هذا مكتب منو هذا؟ شكله واحد يعني يمكن مندوب أو ما أعرف يعني شيء coordinator شيء. هذا مكتب CEO. And I was shocked. I'm like, the CEO sits here? And he's like, yeah, this is his office. The only office that they had that was closed شؤون الموظفين. تعرفون لأن في بعض الكونفيدنشياليتي والسرية، فالموظفين مرات يدخلون داخل يتناقشون في أمور خاصة، فهذا كان مسكر. أما الباجين كلهم جالسين مع بعض عائلة وحدة. This is something that we need to know. KHDA, yes, I've heard about KHDA. They also have a very nice workspace, and this is something that it kind of translates to the flat organization, but of course it has to have both. But the workspace, when it's like that, it's much more better, and it translates to more productivity. You have to think about these things. بعدين يعني يفكروا فيها أصلاً it costs less. I think it costs less than having cubicles and all these things. طبعاً قبل سووا دراسة زمان decades ago سووا دراسة and they say cubicles it creates more, it makes the employee more productive because he focuses. فسوون هذه الكباين هذه الصغيرة. اليوم احنا كبشر تغيرنا، هذه الأمور تعيقنا. اليوم الجوبز are not routine jobs. We have systems to create all these processes for us. وأشياء يعني قامت الأمور روتينية هذه خلاص. الأنظمة قامت تساعدنا فيها. عبد الله لو الله يحفظه. هي نعم. قامت الأنظمة تساعدنا فيها. فاليوم our jobs needs more environments that helps in creativity and thinking. It doesn't need you to just focus on one thing, 1 + 1 = 2, an algorithmic kind of job. No, your job needs to be more creative. It needs to be out of the box. It needs to be about all these things. So open areas and open spaces are much more better for today's human, today's employee. it makes him work efficiently, more efficient. عندنا بعد وقت، عندنا بعد 10 دقائق. طبعا by the way they say that if you talk for 1 day is easier than you talk for 1 hour. So the shorter the time, the harder it is to talk, because you want to pick and choose whatever important things you want to talk about, and then sometimes you overplan it, or you don't plan it very, very well. Absolutely. Cue routine reward equals productivity. Yes. From home will lead to minimize waste. Yes, I think the work from home will I hope that it will consider, a lot of people will consider that and try to apply it even after the COVID-19. Guys, if you have any comments or any questions, please shoot. Well, there is the lean management has a huge toolkit for every single thing that the lean, think of it of a house. They call it the house of lean. Okay, and the house of lean consists of pillars and bases and everything. There's a toolkit for waste elimination or waste identification, which I mentioned which I talked about generally today. There is a toolkit for Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. So after you eliminate or you identify waste, how do you eliminate waste? Is applying the Kaizen tools, the Kaizen principles, the Kaizen workshops, all these things. There is the 5S, there is the just in time. There's a lot of toolkits in lean management. As a matter of fact, I think it's a degree that you can get in quality assurance or something like that. They actually teach these things in universities. It's a whole science.